Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity, Stop the New World Order, welcome to Hapanwo TV. Well, we're going to take a little trip down memory lane. I've decided to re-edit one of my old videos. Now this is actually what I consider probably my favourite video, certainly from my early period, and it's called Ben Goes on Tour, and it's a reportage of the Glastonbury Symposium 2010. Some of you have already seen it, I know, in its original form. Now, the thing about the original form is several problems with it. Now, firstly, when I did that, it was in the good old happy days, as I've talked before about YouTube. One of the good old happy days was that you could do response videos, which meant that it was actually quite easy, although probably not ideal, and I have improved since then. But you could actually make like a multi-part or multi-scene video just by uploading raw files to YouTube. It wasn't the ideal way to do it, but if you were like me, who was probably not, I did neglect technical creativity in those days, and I neglected the technical side of things generally in those days. It could easily be done. You simply make the next part of the video a response video to the original. But YouTube did away with response videos ages ago, so basically you could just you couldn't. There was not a lot you could do. YouTube also did away with annotations, which was annoying because I used the annotation system a few times on that film, which I can't do now. All those have just vanished, which is very annoying on the original uploads, which I'm gonna delete actually when I've uploaded this. Now this is this film is one of my early reportages. It's one of the Glastonbury Symposium 2010. The Glastonbury Symposium is a really long-running conference. It's very well organised. It's quite expensive, but you get an awful lot for what you pay for. And it's been running since 1990, way back then, and still going today. And it's everyone who goes there thinks it's really good. And so I was getting all these messages about the Glastonbury Symposium, and people say, Ben, you're going to go to that one, you've got to go to that one. So I did. I decided to go with Sue Ostain, my partner at the time, and we got on a train and went to the Glastonbury Symposium. It was expensive, but it was worth it. And all in all, it's like 4 whole days. 5 if you include the journey, which is always part of the fun, isn't it? And so I included that as well. And so I went there, and my goodness me, I produced what I think is one of my finest videos. Anyway, I'm going to show you the whole thing in its entirety, including the original title shots. Now I've changed it. I've changed. Now I've only actually removed one scene, which I thought was a bit stupid and was a bit tacky. So I've only actually removed a single scene from the film. All the rest of the original film is there. I've improved it though. I've used the Steadicam effect on it. Some of you actually got some of the. I used YouTube's House Steadicam by uploading it to YouTube and as private videos and then downloading them. Now, some of you actually, on some of them I forgot to privatise them, so they were published, and some of you watched them, and when they disappeared I got lots of emails from concerned people saying, hey Ben, your videos could disappear, do you know what, with everything that's going on, you can't be too careful. I wrote back to all those people and I explained, and I'd just like to thank them. I'd like to say thank you very much for your concern, because you're right, in this day and age you never know, so I appreciate your vigilance, I really do, so thank you for watching out for me on that. But there is a very simple explanation. It was my own fault, and I actually removed the videos myself, so nothing to worry about. I just accidentally privatised these videos when I was doing the Steadicam on them. I accidentally published the videos when I should have kept them private. So yeah, I'm going to now show you those videos, show you the actual film. I've also included some commentary shots as well. I've got the Steadicam, and I've also included some interesting commentaries, little points I thought I'd mention just in passing as the film progresses. Little thoughts that didn't occur to me at the time, and also thoughts that I've updated in the time since I made the film, because my goodness me, it's more than 8 years ago now. 8 years ago. Tempus fugit, doesn't it? Well, hope you enjoy it.
Hospital porters, pride and dignity, stop the New World Order. Welcome to Hapanwo TV. Hello Hapanwo TV viewers. I am at Oxford. I'm at Oxford Station actually, and the reason I'm at Oxford Station is I'm just about to head off to the Glastonbury Symposium.
Now it's quite strange to actually see myself in the past there. Well, one thing that strikes me, I suppose is good news, is that I don't look much older now than I did back then. And of course I am older, I'm 8 years older, but I don't appear to have physically aged much, really. My voice has probably changed its tone slightly, you know, it's slightly less breathy, a bit more gruff, you know, which comes with maturity, as it happens. But generally speaking, I'm pretty much the same in that respect. I still use the same opening: hospital porters, pride and dignity, stop the New World Order. I don't think I'll ever change that. I don't think any of you guys would want me to, really, would you? I look really cheerful there, don't I? Oh my goodness. Yes, you'll see a lot more of that in the course of this video.
Now, anyone who knows about me and read my conference reports will know that I've been meaning to go to the Glastonbury Symposium for years, because it's one of the oldest of all these alternative conferences. It goes back to 1990. So it's like this is the 20th one. So it's older than all the other, Probe, AV and all the others. And here's the programme, see? Glastonbury Symposium. I think that person is just telling us that our train is arriving. So I'm going to have to break off shortly. But this is the programme, you see. Here we go. Glastonbury Symposium. And we're investigating crop circles and the signs of our times. Andy Thomas is going to be there. There's some people I don't know, I've never heard of before. Ian R. Crane is going to be there. Now, he always traditionally does his very, very first new speech every year at the Glastonbury Symposium. And he always goes on to repeat them at other conferences. Now, it's a 3-day conference, all day 3-day, all day Friday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. And there's a crop circle tour on the Thursday. So I'll be going for a crop circle tour tomorrow. It's now Wednesday, so I'm getting there nice and early so I can have a look around the town, which is very, very good. Oh, I think here comes our train. Is it going to Reading? Yes, it is. It says Reading on it. This is it, Hapanwo TV viewers. I'm off to the Glastonbury Symposium. And I will see you later. Keep watching, there'll be more to come. That's it, I'm on the train. I'll see you later. Hospital porters, pride and dignity, stop the New World Order. Welcome to Hapanwo TV. This is Hapanwo TV on the ascent of the Glastonbury tour. This most magnificent natural edifice which rises majestically out of the plains of Somerset. And on the top is this old church, with the remains of this old church here, making this a landmark known throughout the world. Oh, I should be a tourist guide. I'm wasted as a conspiracy theorist. Me and Stain have been in Glastonbury for about 8 hours. It feels like 48 hours. I mean, it's really weird how there seems to be a time dilation in this place, where the notional time slows down. It really is like another world. A lot of people have said this. The last 10 minutes of the journey into Glastonbury, you know, it's the last 2 miles. You know, 2 miles takes about 10-15 minutes. It's almost as if there's a kind of wormhole or space warp here.
Now, strangely enough, that is something I am going to stand by. Although I think you're already getting the point that I am very, very different now. I look at myself back then as being very different in many ways in terms of my personality. What I said about Glastonbury and the time dilation is something I stand by, because other people have reported it, other people have noted it. And I mean, I visited Glastonbury actually just a couple of months ago, and I did feel I was entering another world, and I did sense it certainly changed me in terms of my personality. I started laughing like crazy about stupid jokes and things like that. But yeah, it's it's funny. I was with Sophie, the Porter's poet, and we made a joke, and I said, "What? Oh, you're going to laugh at this. I hope you laugh at it anyway. What you call a chef at a curry house, who is also a very controversial radio show host?" The answer is Joe Rogan Josh. I know. I laughed myself silly when I heard that. I tell you, I really did. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, there is something odd about Glastonbury. There is something very spiritual about it, and I would still say pretty much what I've said just then, although I put it in slightly more pragmatic terms and slightly more materialistic terms than I used back then. You can already tell, that I'm where I'm going with this. I was a very different person back then than I am today.
And I'm not going to show you the view yet. Let's wait till we're at the top so we can appreciate it properly. But the view is divine. And I look around me and I feel like it's all inside me. Honestly, it's magnificent. I've just drunk from the Chalice well water. And it's actually late in the evening. I don't think you can see it. I'll try to see if I can put the camera on see if I put it on nighttime mode. Let's see if I can put it on nighttime mode. Movie settings, night shot. I'll try that on. Digital zoom functioning, 80. Try that. Right. How's that? Is that any better? You may be able to see things a bit better now because I've got it on night mode. There's sheep everywhere here, and it's like they're drawn to this place like we are. And we were walking up the hill just now. We met these couple of Americans, this American couple who said there was guys playing gongs up here, and it's amazing. I asked them. Seeing as they're American, I asked them, what else have you been doing while you're in England? And I expected them to say, we've been to Buckingham Palace, but the Queen wasn't in. Then we went to the Tower of London. No, they said, we've been to Tinchadjul. So they're obviously here for the spiritual side of things. And they told me they're actually here for the symposium. So, we're actually going to see more of them over the weekend. As you see, we're getting close to the summit now. The ruins of the old church is looming up. We're not far now. It's been quite a climb, I can tell you. But a fit, young, healthy hospital porter like me finds it easy. Not really. We had a lovely evening. We've been going around the high street. We checked into our digs. We went shopping in the high street. Then we went to the George and Pilgrim pub, where we met up with our old mate Ross Hemsworth, who's bringing out a new TV series soon.
Oh my goodness me, that's another little blast from the past there. Ross Hemsworth. Ross Hemsworth is one of these people who sort of almost signifies in a kind of nostalgic atmosphere, the almost nostalgic atmosphere of my early time in the UFO paranormal conspiracy theory movement. I don't know if you've heard of him. You probably have heard of him actually if you're into these kinds of subjects. Ross Hemsworth was I don't know, he still is, I think, well, he might have been. He was a TV presenter, and as I explained, he did bring out a new TV series soon. I said he was going to bring out a new TV series soon. He used to present several programs actually. One was called Ghost Detectives, which was really, really good. I think it was on Channel 4 or Channel 5, and it was with he had Tom Baker with him, Doctor Who, and they used to go to these various haunted places, and they used to bring a medium with them, and Professor Chris French to act as a skeptic. Yeah. He also did these other things called, there was Haunted Halloween Live and Ghostwatch Live, which he did for the BBC, and I think some of them are on YouTube if you want to see them, and they're really, really good. He's a great presenter, and he's got a real passion for the subject. He's written a couple of really good books too, called like The Dead Are Talking, which is quite rare these days, and I've got a signed copy. And it was really good actually, because Ross was absolutely determined that everything should be real. He wouldn't go. He was once approached by a producer who said, "Look, I'll give you a big budget, lots of staff, 40 grand a week or something, and you produce me a ghost series. But we have to deliver, which means if nothing happens for real, we have to fake it." Ross walked out. So he was absolutely insistent. Ross, everything had to be real. Now the TV series he's talking about there is Now That's Weird, which he did go on to do, which is really, really good, and that was on Edge Media. Oh, you see, even Edge Media, it makes me all nostalgic of those early years. Oh, these early years. I'm starting to sound like an old git now, aren't I? But Ross he's someone I've really, really always liked and got on with. He did his own conference actually called the Now That's Weird conference, which was a few years after this one, and I went back to Glastonbury, and I've got to say it was one of the best bloody conferences ever. It was just a one-off though, unfortunately. It was really sad, but I'm not going to put a link in the description box. You can find it if you go to the Panmo main site. But yeah, he's a lovely chap. He really, really nice, and we felt we were kind of kindred spirits, I suppose, me and Ross, and I haven't heard from him much lately. It's just like he's disappeared off the scene a little bit, and it's not that we've fallen out, we just kind of drifted apart. But I do often wonder how he's getting on. I know he went to university, he studied law, so he's a qualified lawyer. I don't know if he's working as a solicitor or anything like that, or he's a barrister, I don't know. But it was nice. I remember meeting him in the Georgian Pilgrim, and we had dinners together with Penny, his missus, and Sue Stain. Oh, blimey! You see, I'm already starting to feel that hiraeth, as we say in Wales. It's a longing for what is past. This really poignant nostalgia. Oh, I'm going to get on with it before I start weeping into my keyboard.
I hope you'll stay tuned for that. We had a nice long chat with him, had a lovely meal, organic food, organic juice, organic water. Everything's organic here and free range. We bought some organic deodorants. Stain got some lovely organic hair shampoo or something, and now we're coming up here. We had some lovely Challetwell water, and we're nearly there. I feel like Hillary on Everest. Come on, Tenzing. We're nearly there. Do you just see a flash of light? I just saw a flash of light from down there. Oh, we're nearly there. Oh, wow. What a sight. The old church. This is a good time to come to the top of the tour, Evening. Oh, might do a bit of sky watching. And look at me, here's the view. Now, isn't that magnificent? I mean, I can't really express it through this camera lens what it feels like. We're 800 feet high above the plains of northern Somerset. I don't know if you can hear me because the wind's pretty loud. I'll do a quick 360 pan there. This is a Panmo TV's finest moment. And here we go. All the ley lines converge on this point. There's a horrible TV mast there disrupting the energy. So be it. And we go around here and we come back to where we started. The town of Glastonbury itself, they're all lit up in the darkness. And there's the sun is just setting behind the clouds. And bloody hell, I should be a poet. Yeah. I don't think that's good. I won't be able to show you the inside of the Abbey because it's all dark. But basically it's 10 to 10 in the evening. We've done an evening ascent of Glastonbury Tour. There's the moon up there shining brightly down on us. It is gibbous moon phase. Look at those clouds there. Not a chemtrail in sight. I've never seen a chemtrail over Glastonbury actually, which is weird. Well, that's all for hospital porters. Pride and dignity for now. I'll leave you civilians and my brother and sister porters and anyone else watching to it. And we'll return to you later with more news and more footage and more exclusive coverage of the Glastonbury Symposium 2010. Hospital porters, pride and dignity, stop the New World Order. We're at Avebury. See that?
Yeah.
The stones there. Let's see there, look at that. It's ancient earthworks. Ancient monoliths. That's where David did his podcast.
Oh yeah.
The woman you can hear talking in the background is Sue Astain, and it is painful for me to hear her voice. She'd never really wanted to take part in the videos, but she didn't mind just being heard in the background or being seen briefly. But when I went on this event, on this trip, it was not the first major trip we'd taken away together. We've been to a couple of other conferences, but this was definitely the best for both of us. And I think she got more out of this than she got out of, for example, Probe or the Exopolitics conferences. It's upsetting, and I mean, I won't go into details, but of course we have split up. We split up in October 2016, and I don't think I'm over her, quite frankly. I don't think I am. We were together for 8 years. We met at an anti-New World Order protest in London in what was it? I think it was in September 2008. That's right. We've been together about 2 years when we went on to this trip. I won't say any more because I'll just get. Again, it's a bit of painful memories. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we were over there.
There's old Red Lion, the police.
It's well worth.
I should point out the event we're talking about. We've referred to David at Avebury. It was actually David Icke. David Icke did a live day-long film interview and meet-up at Avebury in 2009, and Sue and I went along. The video of it is, I think, on YouTube now. But it was amazing. It was a absolutely wonderful weekend we had together, camping out. We stayed at a campsite, and we went to Avebury where David did his little lecture, and we met up with all the other people from the David Icke Forum. And again, I'm getting nostalgic because everything was so simple back then. Everything was so carefree, and everyone got along, and everyone just wanted to do what was best for the world. And I'll say more about that later. But it was funny that we found a dead body lying in a churchyard in Avebury, and unfortunately I spent a couple of hours talking to the police about it, which is a bit of a drag. But it was an odd thing, very, very odd thing indeed. Somehow it seemed significant, and maybe it was.
Well worth spending a day here to walk around the stones and see the whole place in your own time.
5,000 years old, this, and most of it's gone. Imagine what this was like when the earthwork, the bank was twice as high, and all the stones were here, and they took the grass off, so it was just bare chalk. Just imagine what it must have looked like.
And also walk the avenue as well.
There's a guy up on top of it.
There we go.
You can walk all the way around there. There's the avenue. Normally that's where we stuck at. Big long avenue. Curves all the way around so that people can. I mean, the people probably when they approached the temple, they must have walked this avenue as part of the ritual. You know, well, there's Silbury Hill. I'll just zoom in a bit, so you can see it. There's a massive earth mound.
Evidently, they would also assemble on Silbury Hill.
Look at that.
And they would have. It's usually at night. There would be a fire ceremony up the top there. Now, Silbury Hill is a man-made structure, and there are lots of stories about Silbury Hill and questions about it. But it is the epicenter of the crop circle phenomenon. And you might have heard about the hole that appeared at the top of it. Well, there's lots of stories about the hole.
The bloke dug into it.
The official thing that it was a collapse. But other people took samples, and most interesting things was found in the soil. And it looks like it was not a collapse. It actually, as your crop circle people, I'll tell you, the original depth of the hole was 33 feet, and there was a passage off to one side at a particular angle, I don't know what, which was highly significant. And then there was a falling of earth, and it fell to 22 feet. So we found this really rather interesting. We also sent our own people down on the end of a rope, photographing it, and it ended up on
It's a tumulus over there.
somebody's
Someone
video.
has planted
So turning left here.
plants on the tumulus. It's a burial, old burial
right,
mound.
Neither you're asking me. Let me think. Possibly about 2000.
It's the Beckhampton
Maybe
Roundabout.
not. About that's the Americans were on it, and they thought this is extraordinary. Fancy them having a hole at the top of this hill without any fence around it. It's rather dangerous. Wouldn't happen in America. Oh, nobody knew there was a hole there. But what had been seen earlier on in that year was a lot of UFO activity and actually a spaceship. So
We're getting close to it.
it's quite a potent area. There are 4 springs around
Spaceships
the-
and UFOs, eh? How about that?
Silbury Hill, and one of them is the Swallow Spring, and we had the formation of the swallows around it. And there is a photograph of when the vegetation dies out. You see the shape of a crone, and the hill is actually the belly of the crone. But it is particularly made. And it's like a moat around it with the water. So in the winter, it's sort of surrounded by water. And opposite Silbury Hill, it's the Long Barrow,
Man-made.
West Kennet Long Barrow. And here, we always have formations. We've had one in the field just opposite, up the top there, by the way.
Man-made.
That's the only one. But up on the top here is the Long Barrow. Those cars there, at the top of this hill, you can't really see it, but you can see people walking up to it. And what has happened is the crop formations have brought people to the Long Barrow. The Long Barrow is the barrow where the people with the long heads are buried.
Oh, look there.
Well, not buried, but some of their bones are there.
You can see it, I'll zoom in.
And ceremonies take place in the Long Barrow,
I've been there, I've been in there. It's an ancient burial chamber.
connecting with the
So it's
wisdom
not
of the
working
ancestors. The ancestors that maybe had a hand in
I hope you
creating
can see that, I hope you saw that.
aspects of this planet. We don't
Sorry
know.
if I didn't catch it correctly for you.
So we're coming up to a road on the left which would lead back to Avebury and back to the avenue, but we're not going to take that. But you can see that the avenue would still have continued along here, right up to the sanctuary, which is up by the Ridgeway. And the Ridgeway is a line of a high ground that travels right across the country. And the crop formations, they follow the ley lines basically, and it is a ley line, appear right along the Ridgeway, in both directions.
I love the colour of that crop, that rich golden brown.
But this year there's nothing. So,
It's going to be harvested.
so here we've got the sanctuary on the right hand side. Just in there, we've just got the stones and it's a spiral. In there, on the right hand side there.
You see it?
And some ram burrows there
So, oh, look, there's a...
on the left.
I'm sorry if you didn't
Looks
see
like they're
that.
laying a path.
There's the barrows. I'm sorry if you didn't see that. I thought I'd caught it. That's a very interesting little look there at the sacred sites, the sacred landscape around this area. There'll be more of that later. Spill of Porter's pride and dignity stopped the New World Order. Look where I am. I'm in a field with all these people and we're going to go to a crop circle. There's the crop circle, can you see it? I'll just zoom in a bit. Oh, I wasn't doing that. See if you can see it now. There it is. We're going to get a bit closer to it. These crop circles, I mean, I know most of them are made by the plankers, as people say. There's always a kind of... There's also some contention about the number that are made by plankers and the number that are natural and appear by non-physical means, unknown means. I don't think anyone really believes they're all natural. Everyone accepts that there are plankers, and the plankers do make a lot of them. But I mean, some people put the figure at 60% that are natural, some put them at 40%. Richard D. Hall says less than 5% are natural. Truthfully, I don't know. It's probably none of those figures are correct. It's probably more than 5%. It's probably less than 40%. I don't know, less than 60%, but I'm not sure. Oh, was that there? Oh, that's what it looks like from the air there.
Yeah.
That's it, yeah. That's what it looks like from the air. Thank you. I mean, there's a code of conduct when it comes to visiting these crop circles, and we've been very careful to adhere to that. And if you actually adhere to the code of conduct, most farmers actually don't mind you visiting them. And the National Farmers Union even says things about this. What you have to do is always stick to the tram lines. See these little tram lines? These little paths where the tractor's wheels go. Always walk along those. Don't cut through the virgin crop, because that doesn't only destroy crop, it ruins the image. Don't smoke while you're in crop circles. You know, I just generally respect the environment, and they don't mind you coming to visit. I don't think most of them don't mind. You feel there is always an atmosphere with these things. In fact, when I'll do a brief shot when we get there, but after that I'm going to stop filming, and we're just going to sit and enjoy it peacefully. These lovely old trees over here. There's always atmosphere wherever these things appear. Hey, listen, that's this little location we are. We're in Wiltshire. It's a place called Cherbury, lovely old place. And I don't know if you remember the article I wrote about Avebury last year. I'll put a little link in the comments box, and in the article associated with this film. But we actually witnessed in June last year farmers obliterating crop circles as they were created, and I actually said in the article, you know, why are they doing this? And I think they were very annoyed to have these people make these things, assume they were people making these images in their fields, and they wanted to destroy them to stop other people coming to the field, or try and deter these sort of plankers from making new circles. In a sense, you know, that's not only a pretty horrific thing to do. I suppose they're in their rights to do it because it's their land, but you know, just because the Mona Lisa falls into your back garden doesn't mean you can smash it up. And then also, they're cutting off their nose to spite their face when they do things like that, because really, you know, it does destroy some of the crop, you know, when the crop soil comes down. But a farmer who knows what he's doing can make more than a compensating few bob by putting up an honesty box. You know, most people who visit put up an honesty box, and the farmer can actually make a profit if he knows what he's, and from the people who visit, because most people will visit and will put some money in the box. So it was very, very sad to see that happen. I think the farmers that do it, you know, they're really, like I say, they're cutting off their nose to spite their face. And this year it doesn't seem to have happened so much, which is good. I mean, a lot of the crop circles are gone now. That's just because they're naturally being harvested. The hot weather has matured the wheat early, and they're now harvesting it. When I get to the circle, I'm going to stop the commentary and just film silently, so we can enjoy the peace and quiet of the location. And I'm going to stop filming soon after, so that we can just be in the circle and not have to worry about filming. We're nearly there now. It's a lovely view. The silence here is just incredible. Just a few spots of rain now. You see, there's no chemtrails. I've not seen any chemtrails in the last 3 days. There are no chemtrails over Glastonbury. Some lovely cloudscapes actually, and just passing showers, no serious rain. Just moments when it gets very heavy, and then that's it. Let's see, there's a whole party of us, somewhere nearly there now. There is a very solemn atmosphere as you approach this thing. It does feel like a temple of sorts, or something, a sacred site of some sort. They're best to come and see when they first arrive, because they get a bit threadbare after a while, with people walking in and out of them and the wind and rain. You know, so when they're new, it's always best to come and see them when they're quite new. Oh, look at that. There. Like a little wheel. Look at these structures here. So you need... The atmosphere is incredible. I feel my fingers tingling. Let's have a look at the lay. Hold the camera up to try and get a sort of aerial type view. Some people have brought poles, like that man has brought a pole, special observation pole, because you need to get above them to appreciate them. So I'm going to hold my camera as high as I can. What's remarkable is there seems to be patterns within the lay. It's like there's one sort of wave that goes this way, and another wave that goes in this direction, in a circular direction. And you see there's like a very abrupt border, and then it turns into another section. I'm going to stop filming now, just while I want to enjoy the peace and quiet. See you later. Hospital Porter's pride and dignity stop the New World Order. Welcome to Herpanwo TV. This is where I am now. I'm at a place called Fosbury, which is on the border of Wiltshire, I think, with Hampshire. Lovely little place, very quiet. Although I get the feeling I'm being watched. I've been to the crop circle we just went to at Chetbury. It was really, really nice. Now we're going to the second crop circle as part of our crop circle tour, which is the first day of the Glastonbury Symposium. It's raining slightly now. In fact, we just narrowly avoided a major thunderstorm when we were at the last crop circle. We got back onto the coast just in time. The crop circle I was on before, at the Chatbury, the one that you saw in the last film, was... I went in there and it did have, like I said, it had this amazing atmosphere. And... it was a very, very peaceful kind of atmosphere. I'll put a link up, like I'll do with this one now, to the page on Crop Circle Connector, which actually has the details of the circle we visited. It seemed to be designed in a particular way. It was a 10-pointed star kind of formation, and it had these large communal areas in the middle. It was like a temple, and it seemed as if it was whoever made this, or whatever made this, was inviting people to come in. It seemed like it was very user-friendly to humanity. And they were inviting people to come in and see it, and wanting us to go in and experience it. You know, they're saying, please come in, that kind of atmosphere. There was these large communal sort of notches in the middle, as you'll see in the picture, and where people can sort of like move around and talk together and talk and discuss things. And around the outside are these little kind of private chapels where people can go for silent meditation on their own. So that's the impression I got from it. The lay, like I said, they get threadbare and very, very ragged when they're a bit old, because so many people have walked on them and the elements take their toll. The lay was a bit untidy and you could see it being walked on. I had a look at the stems to see if there was like any nodal disruption, as in what Levengood discovered, and I did spot some nodal bending with some black marks on them, which indicates, this could be one that's not planker made. I don't know for sure, because there are other ones which look like they've been planked, but then that could just be people walking on them. I'm not sure.
Now, since I made this video, I found out that there are problems with the Levengood study, and several people have been writing about this on both sides of the debate. It's not completely false, as certain people, such as Tristan Swale, have claimed, but he failed. There were certain things that he failed control for. Nevertheless, what David Caton's work onto this is much, much better, I think, and is far more interesting. And I do recommend the Richard D. Hall, who I mentioned earlier, Richard D. Hall, in his video, Crop Circles, The Hidden Truth, which goes into that, and some of the things that Richard has said more recently about the crop circle phenomenon. As I said, Levengood, the BLT research team that worked really hard on this, they did an excellent work. They made a few mistakes. It's not to be discarded in the way that Swale thinks it should be, but I think there is no doubt that crop circles cannot be explained by the actions of the people I call the plankers in this video, which is a term I haven't used very much because it tends to trigger Matthew Williams really badly, and it's a bit, obviously it's derogatory, and I don't feel any bad feelings towards the people who make artificial crop circles. I mean, for me, it's a form of landscape art. It doesn't do any harm. Well, it does to the farmer who... But as I said, I mean, obviously it is criminal damage, it's trespass, and the farmers can lose out of it. But a farmer that knows what to do can make more than a compensating few bob. For instance, they can hire their field out to events like the Glastonbury Symposium, which is how we got to go into this crop circle.
But there was a lot of... There's an awful lot of mud and dirt and this stuff there, which is inevitable. The one thing about these formations, and many people have mentioned this, Michael Glickman and people I have said, they're not sacred cows. They eventually get destroyed, and people's experience and records are the only thing that remains of them. Photographs, descriptions, memories. And maybe that's a good thing. It's like the sand mandalas that the Buddhist monks make. They spend hours and days making these beautiful patterns out of sand, coloured sand. And then they just, at the end of the day, they wipe them all away, they destroy them. And the reason is, it's because of the Buddhist idea of impermanence. Nothing, physical things come and go. Everyone who's alive in this, and today, within 100 years, nearly all of those people will be dead. Within 1,000 years, all the buildings standing today will probably be knocked down, most of them anyway. All living, all the cells in your body, within a few months, they'll all be replaced by others, sometimes within a few minutes. The longest living cells, I think, in the nervous system, it takes a couple of months. But you're literally not the person physically you were 4 months ago. That's impermanence, and that's what these crop circles, I think, represent. They're an artwork which it shows incredible wisdom in that sense. They don't carve things on rocks. They put things... It's a delicate, kind of subtle kind of expressiveness in using things like snow and ice and crop and grass, which is just wonderful. We're nearly upon the new formation now, the second formation. We went to a pub called the George in Fosbury, where there's some local people there who this has become a part of their kind of culture, right? They call it architectural graffiti. They don't take it very seriously, and they said, well, look, if there are aliens, why are little green men coming from all these planets and scrawling things in fields? Why don't they come and talk to us in English if they're that clever? And that for me is anthropomorphizing. And it really, you can't make assumptions about how the kind of intelligence that created these things feels, even if it is indeed physical beings from other planets. So therefore, I did make that point to the man, and I think he took it. Just having a look round. See, this is the actual structure of this is it's a nested cube, and it's a 3D effect. It's a nested cube encased by mathematically precise straight lines. So it's more, this is a less organic feel to it. It has a more kind of mathematical and technological feel to it than the last circle we went to. I'm just going to examine the lay now. The lay is very smooth. I think this is a newer one. And Deirdre, our guide, did say that it was newer. Just go near the edge and see if there's any signs of planking or whether there's nodal bending. It's sometimes hard to tell. And yeah, that does look like it's bent at the growth node. That's a good sign. Not definitive. It's a good sign. The ground is a lot rougher than at the last circle. It's like lumps of flint everywhere on the ground. This is the view around it. As you can see, everything around you. It's built on the side of a hill, very steep hill, at Fosbury in Wiltshire. I'm going to just hold the camera up now so you can get like a big, long shot. See, so I hope you can see that. Oh, thank you. Oh, this gentleman here is going to lend me his pole. Thank you, Val. This is goed zo, yeah. Good so. Thank you, Val. I'm just going to use this gentleman's pole now to give you a much better shot. Well, my Herpanwo TV viewers, you're a lot higher up than I ever am now. I hope you can see everything now. There's a nice 360 for you. That's it. Thanks a lot, mate. Here you go. Cheers, buddy. There we are. That's funny, he's meeting a Dutch bloke. My mum was Dutch. It's strange to see people from Holland. It always makes me think of my mum. God rest her soul. Okay, I'm going to stop filming now and just enjoy the peace and quiet of this formation by myself. I wish you could be here with me, Herpanwo TV viewers. Maybe one day you will. Hospital porters, pride and dignity, stop the New World Order.
Oh, what a hypocrite I am. Yes, regular viewers will have noticed that I told a little lie there. Well, it wasn't a live deception, it was a live discretion, which is something very different. It refers to something which I wasn't, it was just something private that I wasn't willing to talk about back then. Now, as I said, it's to do with my mum, and I actually, if you watch my video, I think, which video was it? It's one of my much more recent ones. I think it's my Fermerny CERN video, my What is Fermerny CERN video. I tell you that actually, me and my mum had a very different kind of relationship, and my little lament there was actually, well, it was actually just a facade. It was an act. So sorry about that, but that's how it goes. But you know, even today, yeah, I mean, my mother was Dutch, which is why I can speak the lingo. But every time I hear it, it's just, even hearing people speaking Dutch now, it does gives me chills actually. And I don't like hearing that language. I really don't.
So we're approaching Stonehenge now, and
getting close to Stonehenge.
Straight ahead of us, and we're going to branch off round the side and loop round to join the main road again.
I'm going to get a good look at Stonehenge.
First time I've ever seen Stonehenge.
Hi again. We're on our way back from the crop circles now, and we're at Stonehenge. We're not going to be stopping there, but we want to have a look at it.
On this skyline, big and imposing, very majestic. Again, a mound next to it.
Oh yeah, look at that. I don't know if you can see it, but there it is. We're going to get a better view of it, I think. See, there's these lots of these burial mounds everywhere, the tumuli they're called. And there it is. It is an amazing thing to see. I came here when I was a little kid, but I've not been back since. There she is.
Well, my neighbour behind me just says that this morning on the news, how many metres away? 900 metres away, they've found another henge.
But no clones of Simon Parkes this time.
But there we go.
So that big station stone there. Look at that. Quite something.
There it is behind the wire fence, unlike Avebury.
Get on the back window. Oh, can you see it?
Do you know which direction?
That's quite something, isn't it?
Yeah.
There you are, Panwo TV viewers. Stonehenge. That's the most. It's funny. That's the most famous monument, isn't it? Everyone
One
ever
of the
talks
most
about that.
famous formations found just beside this road, the other road,
mound
the
over there.
A303. The opposite side of the road to Stonehenge was the Julia set. I think it was 1996, I think. I'm not sure on the date. But they could assess the time of that one's arrival. It arrived on a Sunday evening, probably at about 5:40. At 5:30 the road was clear. There was nothing in the field. A farmer had been in the field and cleared people out earlier on in the day. He left the field at 5:30. A pilot flew over at 5:30. The guards around Stonehenge, it takes half an hour to walk around the perimeter of Stonehenge, apparently, their fence at the time. And they saw the field at 5:30 and it was empty. At 6 o'clock there the formation was. The same with the pilot when he flew back at 6 o'clock. Some people phoned the police, and the police at 5:30, there was nothing wrong with the A303. But by 10 to 6 there was traffic jams all along the A303 due to the fact that so many cars had pulled over onto the side of the road, people leaping out and entering the formation. So the estimated appearance was between 5:30 and 10 to 6 on a Sunday evening, which had the traffic returning to London after the weekend.
Was that people with planks? And the plankers didn't do that.
And it was a Julia set, very famous
There's another tumulus there.
formation,
There's two of them. They're everywhere.
and it appears on lots of postcards. So that's one of the good stories of the time and space allowed for a formation to appear under everyone's nose while they were driving.
It's like a huge Bronze Age cemetery. There's so many of these tumuli, and they're everywhere. And this is what, like Stonehenge is definitely the most technically impressive of all the ancient monuments. It's from 2000 BC, and you know, with all the stones raised up and the big circles, all lintels and things up on them, you know. And but to me, it's got a bit of a creepy energy. Feels a bit. It feels like a bit rough. Oh look, there's a rainbow. Look, can you see the rainbow? I don't know if it's actually shown on the film. I hope you can see it. We've had sort of showers all day long. There's tumuli in the background, in the foreground, rather. There's a close-up of the tumulus. Now I was going to say that to me, it's got a nasty feel to it, and this is backed up by archaeological evidence because they found lots of bodies buried there which have died by violence, skull fractures, things like that, and they think a battle might have been fought there about the time it was in use, and that it was used for human sacrifices. And there's some witnesses say it's still used for human sacrifices today by
There's
the
a bit of a
Illuminati.
rainbow just to the left here as we go around the roundabout.
But the Illuminati is still active at that site.
There we go.
Avebury, I prefer Avebury. Avebury's got a nicer atmosphere to it. There's no doubt in the technical achievement that Stonehenge was. It's beyond anything that has ever been done elsewhere. With the stones raised up on top of each other, put in a perfect circle, and they dragged some of the smaller ones were dragged all the way from South Wales as well.
So now the last leg of the journey. Just let me remind you once again that to give yourself a bit of time and space, if you like. Remember that you've been into the prop formations.
That was Stonehenge. See you later.
Maybe
Since I made this film, I discovered that there are plans to build a tunnel under Stonehenge through which the A303, the road we were on, is going to be rerouted. And I'll say more about that in a future video. I've already done an article about it on Her Panwo Voice.
Hospital Porter's Pride and Dignity, stop the New World Order. Welcome to Her Panwo TV. I've made it, I'm in Glastonbury. And this is Glastonbury High Street. And this is sort of the centre of all the activities in the town, commercial activities anyway, in Glastonbury. It's not far from the Abbey, which is just over to my left. It's coming back here. I was absolutely delighted to come back here. It was really nice to come back to Glastonbury. Because this is one of the places where I really feel at home, you know. I mean, I think you've all probably gathered from reading the Her Panwo blog and watching my videos that you know, I often feel a bit isolated and out of place in society. I feel like a bit of a black sheep. You know, I'm not the only person who feels that way. Ryan Slaxer was saying something in one of his videos the other day, and I tend to agree with him. But here, I don't feel out of place. I mean, it's not often I walk down a shopping street and I don't feel out of place.
And that's something I still feel. And to this day, this is my prime reason for going to the many conferences that I go to. As I've explained on my more recent reportages of the various conferences I go to. This also indicates, and I actually didn't know this, but obviously it's true, that I've been watching Slaxer since at least 2010. I thought I sort of picked him up around 2012 or so, but no. I must have started much earlier. That's amazing, that, isn't it?
Well, look, this is Thomas Cook Travel Agents. That's the only corporate brand name you will see within half a mile of this place, I'll tell you. There's no McDonald's, there's no Tesco, there's no Sainsbury's.
Well, that's now changed, unfortunately. There are several corporate brand names on Glastonbury High Street. The original supermarket was replaced by a brand of Co-op, and there's been a couple more since then, which is a shame.
What we have instead is Natural Earthling, a bookshop, and where you can buy costumes. There's this lovely white costume, that's like what Deirdre was wearing on the crops, if you watch the crop circle videos that I've done. Enlightenment, there's a didgeridoo and a picture of Oriental spiritual figures, you know, and you go further along here and you come to, this is the Natural Heritage Shop where you can buy all kinds of organic and free range and fair trade produce. It's all non-toxic stuff, you know. These are all small businesses, they're all owned by the people who run them. They're small businesses and not big corporations, you know. So you carry on down here and I'll tell you where I've been. This here is the what bookshop's it called? It's the Labyrinth bookshop. Oh, I bought a book from there, look, and he gets David's book there. See, his new book, which is still on my shelf, waiting to be sort of read. Carry on a bit further down here. I'll show you some more. Like I said, I'm very, very, very pleased to be back here. I mean, after I did the Now That's Weird conference, I really felt like I belonged here. This is the sort of place I do belong. Now, many people have said, well, why don't you go and live there? Why don't you go and live in Glastonbury? Well, for one reason, in a sense, I don't particularly want to come and live here. I want to bring here to where I am now. I want to do the exact opposite. I want it to come to me. In other words, I want, you know, the purity and non-toxic nature of this town and the spiritual kind of lifestyles and non-consumerist, you know, anti-consumerist lifestyles is what we need everywhere. There's no point going to a little island of happiness in this ocean of misery and sickness. You have to cure the sickness, cure the misery, and bring happiness everywhere. And that's what I want to do. Burns the bread. I bet he's Welsh with a name like that. Burns the bread. Bit of a joke there. And look at this, the magic box. There's not many places where you have shops with things for witches. And look at that, ain't that beautiful? There's like a turquoise cow skull. You don't often see them, do you? Look at these lovely Buddhas. Yeah, there's a couple of places around here that are a bit pricey, you know, which cater to the tourists. because this is still a tourist area, and this in there is assembly rooms, and that's where the Now That's Weird conference was held. I didn't film it at the time, right, but when you read the review of the Now That's Weird conference, this is what I was talking about. This is the assembly rooms here down this little passageway. There's a organic fair trade cafe there, you can get food, and there's books and other things in there. Coming down here in the early morning is probably the best time. More books. Speaking Tree. What lovely names. There's a place here, something Piglet. Here we are, look. What's it called? The Mystic Piglet. The Psychic Piglet, sorry. I mean, what a wonderful name. The Psychic Piglet. We'll have to come in and do some shopping because we're just down on our way for the first day of the conference now, the heart of the Glastonbury Symposium. Now this bookshop here, Courtyard Books, I bought a book that was really, really calling to me last time I was here, and it was really, really amazing thing. Right. Now we're nearly at the conference now, and it's going to be a long conference all day. I'll be doing sort of a video diary of the conference as I go along. I can't film the speakers for copyright reasons, but I'll be filming as much as I can in the hall and around it. Later on I hope to film in the Abbey. Now this here is the George and Pilgrims, which is Glastonbury's premier pub. And there's no need to ask, because yes, I will be popping in there later to sample its produce. See you later. Hospital Porter's Pride and Dignity, stop the New World Order. Oh, again, a slight addendum to the shot I just did of Glastonbury High Street. This one is just, I'm just very close to the place where I stopped filming just now. I just had to stop because there's this beautiful Buddha here. It absolutely, it's like gold, it's like this gilt Buddha. With the most brilliantly carved. It says don't touch it, so I'm not going to touch it. But it's absolutely delightful, it's gorgeous. Look at that face. You can just see the passionate and desperate search for enlightenment in his features. It looks really alive, and it's absolutely gorgeous, like the lotus petal in his hand, as he's so often depicted. There's lots of lovely sculptures around here, like this one. A wise woman, a Wookiee hole. Look at that little, there's a globe in her hand. Again, there's a lovely facial expression on that. The sculptor has captured a very, very unique expression, almost like Da Vinci capturing the Mona Lisa's smile, you know. There's the goddess temple. There's these goddess shops here, see? This is Venus, this is like a goddess shop. And there's going to be a goddess conference coming along soon. And there's this wonderful sort of mystical kind of erotic images and these beautiful sort of reliefs. Hope you can see, maybe you can't see them as clearly as I can, but there's a little bookshop here. All books £2 or less, that's good, isn't it? Look at this. Now lovely, these little hollowed out crystals, I've seen a lot of them. They got one in the hotel, I'll try and show it you later. There's beauty everywhere in this place, and uniqueness and creativity everywhere. These very things that are so discouraged in our society today, people celebrate them here, and they do as much of them as they can. This is the shamanic healing, the British Healing Centre, isn't it? This is probably my favourite bit. Look at this wonderful mural. I don't think you can't see it all, that's the problem. But I'll just film as much of what it is. There's like a forest scene. And there's the old Glastonbury tour. You can't see it all in one go, that's the only problem, but it's just kind of, it's very, very delightful. See the swan's head there? And there's these delightful, there's a chalice, the Holy Grail, and a crow. And there's this lovely scanto or non-clad lady here. I'll be lying if I said I didn't find that appealing. I'm a red-blooded bloke after all, and it's a kind of mystical, erotic kind of. Isn't it? Again, it's very goddess-like, a mixture of sort of the sexual and the divine, which of course do go together in pagan culture. You know, thought I'd share that with you. There's some lovely sculptures up here on the wall. fauns, fairies, elves, dwarfs, hobbits, kind of mythical creatures. And the whole thing is interspersed with lovely gardens and flowers. It's just a delightful place. I just wanted to share that with you. Thanks for watching. See you later.
I think this segment of the video, the one you've just seen, is the one which I think illustrates best how in the intervening 8 years I have changed my position on the New Age scene. I think back then I was much more open to New Age ideas than I am now. This is not to say that I am now closed-minded to New Age ideas and I would reject everything I said in the last couple of minutes. It's just I see it differently. I think I'm a bit more grounded. I'm a bit more materialistic, to be quite frank. I've used that word materialistic twice now in this video, and I'd never used it to describe myself before. But I mean, and I wouldn't. I mean, the skeptics would call me a woo-woo. But compared to what I was back then, I am. I was more optimistic back then. I was more up. I had my head more in the clouds and my feet less on the ground, to paraphrase Richard D. Hall. And I've changed since then. I don't think I've lost anything through that change, but there is still a part of me that I think does miss that innocent simplicity that with which I used to see many things in those days. Although, of course, I was conspiratorially aware. It's odd that it's just the different sides of myself the balance has changed between the two. I haven't abandoned one. It's just the different balance levels, I think.
Ah, this is the auditorium we're in, see? This is, it's a bit dim in here, I hope you can see it. There's these beautiful wall hangings put up all over the walls, and I'll try and show you them. There's like these beautiful god and goddess figures, and this DNA spiral. They're like church bell ropes. There's these nice little flowers and lava lamps and things there. There's there. It's like church bell ropes. See that? That's marvellous. Sorry. And that's like a crop circle picture, image. It's like there's a lot of these sort of geometric images here with colours. They're like tie-dyes. You see, it's very dim here, but I've got it on a night shot. I hope you can see it all. Lovely sort of the different colours coming together and the different shapes overlapping, and I sound like an art critic, don't I? Maybe I should start talking like Brian Sewell. These are all abstract. There is no sense of colour or depth or perspective. These artists obviously don't drink wine. Or maybe I'll be like Jonathan Bowden. Yes, obviously we have some new neo-post feminist themes here. No sense of glory or honour or power.
I should point out that Brian Sewell and Jonathan Bowden are both art critics, or they were. They've both died now. But they were very critical of modern art of many kinds and postmodern art. Indeed, I am too, although I think those two guys went over the top a little bit. I think they'd have had a dim view of the tie-dyes in Glastonbury, in the Glastonbury Symposium auditorium, which is why I decided to parody them a little bit there.
Nah, I think I'll just talk in my normal voice. This is one of my favourite here. So there's these monuments, like Avery type monuments, in this beautiful landscape, and there's crop circle designs embossed on the monuments. These megalithic objects here, you see, and there's like caverns and white horses on the hills, more monoliths there, stone circle type things. And here's another, it's like just like the pattern before, except it's circular, and it's blue and orange. That's nice. And there's these tree symbols, and that's the Glastonbury Symposium logo there, and more of these kind of abstract crop circle based pastels. See, there's a nested crescent there, and it's wonderful. Oh, this is lovely. This is another of my favourites. It's Egyptian in theme. And you see here like a Stargate type thing up there, and there's beautiful sort of alpine or Himalayan landscape scene there. and a Mayan pyramid type structure there. And this is not a geometric shape, it looks almost like a kind of tesseract, you know, a three-dimensional shadow of a four-dimensional object. Absolutely magnificent pictures. Now there's just one more here, which is this one here, and the Queen. Oh my goodness! I swear she's shape-shifting in that, you know. Of course, sorry, that gave me a bit of a shock. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity. Stop the New World Order. Welcome to Herpanwo TV. Well, the Glastonbury Symposium 2010 has begun. It's the 20th Glastonbury Symposium. Some people say the 21st. But either way, I'm going to do a video report of this because I'm not going to be able to do a full written report. And we've just heard the first speaker. Got a slight break now between that speaker and this one, so I've come to do a little reportage, a little video diary. I've been trying to look for a studio, and I found this old-fashioned phone box, you see, which is just outside the town hall. Don't see many of them these days, do you, in this age of mobile phones? It's an old-fashioned, lovely old phone box. Now, the first speaker was called Jason Porthouse, and he's someone I've not heard of before, but he was excellent. I'll just read you quickly what he says. He's called Jason Porthouse, is a long-standing member of the Croppy community, joined in the Sussex Crop Circle group in 1992. He's had a lifelong interest in all things metaphysical and mysterious, having been brought up in a household where spiritual beliefs were the norm. The arrival of the crop circle phenomenon, along with a psychic development group run by Paul Bura, sparked a much more active role in exploring the mysteries of our world. Jason is a keen dowser and a meditator, but must try harder. In the real world, Jason is an Emmy Award-winning TV editor whose work includes short films and panorama. He lives in the Somerset Levels with his partner Di, who co-organises the symposium, and has 4 cats. And the presentation is called Middle Earth Crop Circles and Liminal Spaces, and the mess we're in. And it was really good actually. There's the liminal is a word he invented. It comes from the Latin, which limen, which means a threshold, and it's like a threshold between the worlds. This is where he gets the phrase Middle Earth from. And it's an interesting idea, you know, because in pre-Christian pagan times and pre-Illuminati times, it was perfectly normal to believe in things like this. These, things like trees were liminal because they spanned the air, the earth, and the underworld, the underground, where their roots were. Of course, Christianity, which I think was a front for the Illuminati, came along and destroyed that. All these ideas about the sacredness of ponds and streams and crossroads, these were all destroyed by the church. Crossroads were linked with Satan. Sacred sites was linked with these evil and demons. This is why a lot of the sacred sites were damaged and vandalised. Jason believes that the crop circle phenomenon is actually, I get the feeling he believes that they are a reintroduction of these old pre-Illuminati ideas, as I would call them. It's kind of people who have not normally been into spiritual things before coming into them because of the crop circles. There's this spiritual transformation going on at the moment. And some people are optimists and believe that we are going to be okay in the end, and I am one of these optimists. Some people are pessimists and believe that 2012 will mean the end, peak oil, overpopulation, and financial apocalypse, things like that. I'm a survivalist, which I've spoken of before. If you read my blog, the Herpanwo blog, I don't believe that myself. But everyone agrees some massive change is going to happen. It has to happen. The idea of work, buy, consume, die, war, things like that. It's no longer, technical. It's no longer practically or morally sustainable. Even Harry Patch, who died recently, and Jason mentions him. He's the last British veteran of World War One, and towards the end of his life, he started saying, war is murder, war is murder. It took him 80 years to realise that, but he's a man who saw the horror of the First World War, which was an absolute epitome of everything that's bad is happening. There's lots of films now about disaster, with The Road, 2012, things like that. these awful films. But there's some good ones like Avatar, you know, which wake people up. And there's this thing called post-Avatar, you know, just post-Avatar depression syndrome. People who've watched Avatar start longing and yearning for it to be true, you know, to live on that planet. And you know, it may not be the most intellectual movie on earth, but it's a wonderful film, and it shows that the Illuminati can't suppress everything. They can't go to every film producer and says, no, you can't film that. You know, they don't control everything. You know, I mean, and it's even the mainstream is now is sort of, some of the mainstream is slipping out of their grasp, and that's good. Jason is also very interested in Rudolf Steiner, the famous philosopher who talked about you know, about the Lucifer. You know, Lucifer was good in Steiner's view, who brought light, spiritual knowledge, art, creativity. Ahriman was the bad guy. That's what Steiner invented. Invented that name for this creature called Ahriman. Whether it's real or not, I mean, the concept is real. It's you know, obsession with logic and rationality, and you know, the skeptic movement is very Ahrimanic. Also, sort of social Darwinism, the idea that the survival of the fittest, amoralism, you know, the ends justifies the means. That's all Ahrimanic. You know, you say, well, we've got to kill thousands of innocent people in wars because we have to meet this military objective. That's Ahrimanic. Yeah, he's really good, actually. Jason Porthouse is absolutely excellent, and I really think he was an excellent speaker. It was a good way to start the conference. I'm very hopeful for the rest of it. And now I'm going to have to go in because it's now nearly ready for the next speaker. But as you see here, this is this phone box. I'm going to maybe make this my impromptu studio. Someone's written drawn a little crop circle there. See it? Hospital porter's pride and dignity stopped the New World Order.
You know what? I do believe I had a bit of a proto-Boudica moment there. I wasn't having Boudica moments in those days, but it's funny. That could have been my first one because 2 months after I made this video, I made Boudica my queen, which is where I visited the possible last battle of Boudica. And you can see that film is one long Boudica moment, even though I didn't really have a word for it in those days. Now, I don't remember this guy, Jason Porthouse, at all. I don't remember anything that he said. It's like, this is all ancient history to me. However, I do think I've changed my position on a lot of what I said back then, especially as far as logic and rationality goes. I don't see that as being almost like one side of the coin with mysticism and intuition on the other. I think the two almost complement each other. In fact, as several people have said, such as George Steiner and these other philosophers, you need to blend one with the other, and nothing is lost from the other. Brian Goodwin is another guy I've sort of got into since I went to this particular event, where it's clarified my thought on the philosophy of science quite a lot, and so I don't see things in the same way as I did back then. But obviously you can see I was enjoying myself. The conference has started, a couple of good speakers, so the first one was pretty good, and I suppose a few years ago I wouldn't have been able to use that phone box as a studio, but of course you can now, can't you? And back in 2010, of course, the mobile phone revolution has already taken place.
Hospital porter's pride and dignity stopped the New World Order. Panwo TV here again, and it's just in the second session in this Glastonbury Symposium 2010. I'm back in my little makeshift studio. Just hope nobody wants the phone. I mean, even in this age of mobile phones, there must be somebody who still uses this thing, or they wouldn't put it here. The speaker I've just seen is Jackie Quealy, who I didn't enjoy as much as Jason Porthouse. She talked about something called Rochelle, which is a kind of, she describes as an advanced form of meditation and sacred geometry. And she then gave up an awful lot of very, very sort of convoluted and intricate explanations of what this actually means. And she displayed some slides which are very hard to read, with a lot of detail on. But it's all about how landscape features match certain types of sacred geometry. Now this is something I'm interested in, I must admit. You know, it's like I've read like this about the Cydonia theory, which is Richard Hoagland talks about, and David Percy Mary Bennett. that the landscape of certain places on Earth matches that of Mars, especially this area we're in now, actually, the West Country of England. A lot of it actually matches certain features on Mars very closely, too closely, I think, to be just coincidental. She also talked about how the crop circles actually match this Rochelle sacred geometry too, which is very interesting too. Also the floor plans of Rosslyn Chapel, Glastonbury Abbey, Stonehenge, you put them on each other, they all overlap each other. They're all encoded with these sort of Rochelle figures, although I do get a little bit dubious about people who use words like encoded or decoded or with crop circles. I prefer the word interpreted, because no one really knows what crop circles are. I think it's possible we can never understand what they are in our present state of consciousness. She's got several websites, and she talks about how it's also a spiritual practice of a certain type of meditation where somebody sort of sits cross-legged or whatever and allows this Rochelle geometry to sort of come through them in this energetic form, which again is something that does interest me. David Icke talks about doing a lot of this kind of thing in his in his early books about travelling around England and Canada, channeling energy to dispel darkness. And I'll tell you the truth, I did a bit of that in the crop circle yesterday. I just stand there and I imagine energy flowing through me from the sun or from the sky, going into the ground, and I visualise two blocked pipes, pipes blocked with this dark fecal matter, and when I breathe out, I imagine myself blowing this fecal matter away from the pipes and allowing the energy to flow freely through the pipes. So, we all do a little bit of that, and I've got an open mind about that, so I wouldn't want to dismiss Jackie Quealy completely. If I learn a little bit more about what she sort of thinks, I may enjoy, listening to her ideas more. Right, I'm off to have my lunch. It's midday on the first day of this Glastonbury Symposium 2010. See you later. Well, hello again. Back out again. I've just seen Ian R. Crane. And now Ian, like I say, he's a good friend of mine. You're familiar with Ian, and I've written a lot about him before, and I've made movies about him too. He's just done his textbook traditional Glastonbury Symposium speech. I've never seen one of his speeches live before. I've seen them all on DVD and online. There's about 5 of them online you can see, or buy the DVDs for a token price. It's a tradition. He always begins a new speech at the Glastonbury Symposium, which he then repeats, and varies slightly, but repeats over the course of the year at various other events, which he does dozens of times elsewhere. This one was a very good one, because it's the time this has been recorded is the 23rd of July 2010. Now Ian is saying there may very well be a tsunami in the Gulf of Mexico at 18 minutes past midnight tomorrow. And if I'm right, then I'm repeating the prediction for you all to see, so you'll know that it was actually said at the time. So you look at the time, that's the time now, and it is the 23rd of July. I don't have any proof of that, I'm afraid, but it is. Basically it's to do with the Gulf of Mexico disaster, the oil spill, which I'm sure you're familiar with now. This is the oil rig, the BP oil rig that exploded and is spilling oil out into the Gulf of Mexico. It's still doing it right now. Despite the fact they've capped the well, it's still leaking out. There's calls to put a nuclear bomb in it and everything, and nuclear bomb explosion. There's a symbolic crop circle and a young Dutch guy called Mark Smulders has interpreted as representing the oil disaster and the various workings of the oil well, and it contradicts that at 18 minutes past midnight tonight, British summer time, that oil well will go. Big time, and there'll be a tsunami. Basically, the seabed is rising, it's risen 3 feet, so there's massive pressure underneath. When you consider that the pressure is tons per square inch at 5,000 feet down, there'll be a huge explosion and a tsunami. And of course, it's disaster. We've seen what tsunamis have done before, and what they could do again. In Hurricane Katrina and the tsunami in the Far East. The Gulf, that area's already had Hurricane Katrina, so it's going to be a double whammy for them. They're going to get another one just a few years later. If it happens, I hope it's not. I hope it's incorrect. But if you're planning on travelling to Florida, I wouldn't. And even if the tsunami doesn't happen, there's so much oil down there. If you go on holiday there, you'll poison yourselves. So don't go to Florida. don't go anywhere in the eastern United States, actually. Ian, he's brilliant, guy. He's a brilliant speaker. Like I said, at the end of the day, he paints an optimistic picture, despite the fact that he puts all these very, very gloomy and terrible scenarios into his work. Because at the end of the day, he's saying what is actually happening. What is actually happening is terrible. And it is disaster. It is horrific. What's happening in this world? If you try and run away from that, you get nowhere. And I've spoken. I know this is another thing he brings up. The need to balance spiritual development with practical applications of the active versus the passive. The passive acquisition of spirituality. He talks about the way of the monk, about the selfishness of the way of the monk. There's people who go around meditating and wearing flowers in their hair, and it's nice to do that, but at the end of the day, it's no good doing that unless you're willing to apply what you've learned spiritually, how you develop spiritually, into practical action in the world today. I know many people in the conspiracy business, who, there's some that are just 100% spiritual, and they don't even look at conspiracies. I mean, they're not in the conspiracy business, rather. They're sort of in the spiritual business, and they want to pretend that they're even on this world. And there's others that are completely in the conspiracy business and don't pay any attention to the spiritual at all. I found that the people who just study conspiracies are not at all spiritual. They tend to get quite paranoid. They tend to become very, very despondent and desperate and angry and paranoid, and they just lose hope in the end because it seems hopeless, and get very cynical. There's those who are into spiritual stuff and reject conspiracy, and they tend to be quite detached and passive people, who can sit for hours meditating but don't do anything practical to actually change the world, to make it into something better, which we all have to do. We have to change our lives on a practical basis, and Ian makes that point too. I feel a bit blown really by what he's told us about this possible tsunami that's coming. I hope he's wrong. I think he is, actually. I mean, there's really deep down, I know it's not going to happen. It's not. I mean, it's possible. Crop circles, as I said, they're never decoded, they are interpreted. There are different ways of interpreting a crop circle. Just because this guy Mark Smolder sees diagrams of the oil well in them doesn't necessarily mean that that's what they are. There's no way of knowing what they are, because you can't get inside the heads of the beings that made them. So I'm not really that worried, but it's still in the back of my mind. What if? I mean, Ian has been right in his predictions before. In terms of financial stuff, and in terms of war. So we'll see. I'll watch TV tonight and see what happens, but I hope it doesn't. Anyway, I'm having a few technical difficulties, so I've got two camera chips, and I've filled up the other one full of film for the movie. This is the second chip I've got. It's playing up a little bit, so it's possible I might have to do the rest of this movie on the phone cam, which is terrible quality, as you know if you see my other movies. I hope that won't happen. I'm going to do everything I can to get this chip working. It seems to be working alright at the moment, but I can't afford a new one, so if this goes down, then I'm afraid the rest is going to have to be shot on the phone cam. So by the time you watch this, you'll be able to see for yourself which way it's going. Okay, I'm going to go back in now. I've missed this ghost hunter guy on now, and I think I've missed his speech. I won't be able to go in halfway through, which is a shame, but I've had to go to the damn computer shop to just get this camera chip fixed. Alright, see you later anyway.
And of course, the great tsunami over Florida luckily did not happen. But that's about the only thing Ian got wrong. I mean, if you look at the report since then on the oil spill, the Gulf oil spill, which Ian has covered ever since it happened in that year of 2010, a lot of what he says has come true. The place is biologically dead, the oil corrects its mix, etc., etc. The fact the fishing industry is now buggered, this sustainable organic fishing industry that's lasted 500 years in that region is over, and it's going to be over for thousands of years probably. All kinds of other things like that has come true as a result of the Gulf oil spill, and Ian has produced many updates on this since then. For example, he knows who Donald Verdreen and all these other people are now. He's managed to find photographs of them online. So do check out Ian's more recent stuff to do with that. Apart from that, I mean, I do endorse the things that Ian says about the balance between the way of the monk and etc. etc. and Gurdjieff and all these sort of other people who said, that's selfish. So my opinion of Ian is still very high. I still hold him in great esteem. So I was very pleased to see him at Glastonbury Symposium. That's the first and the only time I've seen one of his debut speeches live.
Hospital Porter's Pride and Dignity, Stop the New World Order. Welcome to Panwo TV. I'm just here talking with my friend Simon Morris, who's a guy who does all the special effects for Ian R. Crane. And we've been having an interesting chat all about getting involved, getting out and changing your life and taking practical steps to change your life so you're living in a less toxic and more creative way. And right, Simon.
Hi, Ben.
Hi, Simon.
It's good to see you.
Thanks for calling me Ben. You called me Benjamin just now because this stupid
I
thing
did.
is on there. The last person who called me Benjamin was my mother 15 years ago.
Oh, really?
When I
Okay.
poured water all over her.
Okay. And I did introduce you as Mr. Porter earlier as well.
Oh, you could, that's all right.
Because that's what you're known to me on YouTube and all that kind of stuff. So it's good to see you.
That's my own fault. Good to see you.
And I've just seen Ian and my work kind of thing pulling together, which is great for people because at the end of the day, it's getting information out there.
So Ian's just done a speech. This is 23rd of July 2010 at the Glastonbury Symposium. He's done his traditional Glastonbury Symposium speech. It has been filmed. It will be available on DVD.
It will be on DVD.
This is the gentleman who did the visuals.
And it'll be on www.ianrcrane.co.uk.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, what my part in Ian's work is the technical ability, of which Ian, I don't think he'd mind me saying, lacks a little bit. But at the end of the day, what it is important is getting the work out there and getting the message out there. And just the other day, I was coming back from I don't know where I was coming back from now, probably the fish and chip shop, which is not such a good idea. But anyway, I was going into a newsagent, and the newsagent lady, the lady who served me, I walked through the door and she said, good afternoon. And I said, good afternoon to you. And I wandered around and got me a packet of crisps or whatever it was, just after me chips, and a drink, which was water, out of a bottle and not out of the tap.
Well, yeah, well done.
And she said to me, that's £1.50 or whatever it was. Thanks very much. Have yourself a good afternoon or a good evening or whatever. And it really sort of took my breath away. That just that level of service. I don't know. I used to work in the service industry. I used to sell copiers for many years, probably about 15 years. And very little was I thanked for what I did. And I think at the end of the day, this is a big part of what our community does today. It's important for people to be more communal, be more chatty, be more interested in what's going on. Of course, at the end of the day, I went home, had my fish and chips, and the following day, I went in there, and you know what, Ben? I said, listen, I just wanted to come in, and I just said, what was really good was to actually get a thank you and an appreciation of who we are. And she said, well, you know what, Simon, well, she didn't know my name actually, but she said, you know what, I think that this corruption happens through the telly, it happens through what we read, the papers,
that's so
particularly
true.
things like The Sun, whatever. I don't want to knock these papers, but why not?
Oh, I do.
Fuck 'em.
Bastards.
But at the end of the day, she said it stems. take climate change. We don't really understand climate change just like we were taught at school.
Yeah.
It was different back then. And I said, look, I'm involved in a thing called the Alternative View, and just a few. Actually, no, it was a few months ago. At the start of the year, we had a guy called Johnny Ball. Do you remember Johnny Ball? And she said, didn't he have something to do with numbers? And I said, yeah, he did have something to do with numbers. He did something called Think Again with Johnny Ball. Anyway, it was on Channel 4 or whatever it was, or ITV. So, and I said, you know what? Johnny Ball was talking about climate change, but he was talking about propaganda within children in school, and that children are held back by learning different things because of, their beliefs, and they don't constrain to what's been written in the textbook, and so they're shut up. And of course, he was shut up. He was shut up off television, Ben. You know that.
Yeah.
You saw the presentation.
Yeah.
I'm sure you did. So the thing is that I said, well, we spoke about that. We then spoke about 9/11, and she sort of said, what, do you think it was blown up on purpose? And I went, look, my belief that it did, and the research that I've done is that the Americans did do it. But at the end of the day, that's your decision. It's your research, and it's your importance to find out what the truth is. Now, obviously, there's lots of different avenues that a conspiracy theorist or a researcher can go down. But of course, it's understanding and learning as much as you can. And so the following day, I made it my point to go into that shop and to just give her a programme, and I actually gave her a disc of Johnny Ball, which was my personal copy, and I think it was a copy of Ian's talk as well. But at the end of the day, the money side didn't matter, because this was encompassing and embracing what her learning capacity was going to go through, and that's what it's about. It's about moving forward.
Let's see her at the next. We see her at the next conference, you know, and then she'd go out and tell her friends and things like that. And it's true. I mean, anyone can do something in their lives, and something in their. It's not anything in any sort of activity of their life, you know, to practically assist the awakening and healing of the world and humanity. You know, there's a lot of people who, you know, I do admire them. They go around the street with megaphones. I mean, we've seen a lot of that lately, several people, and they do a lot of good work. And some people say, well, you know, you've got to do that if you want to do anything good. You've got to go out and do that. Well, you don't. You don't necessarily have to do that. Other people are doing that, and they're doing a great job. I find that different people can heal the world in different ways in their own way. They're using their own strengths.
And I think one of the most important things, Ben, is awareness. I think if you're aware of it, then you empower yourself through things that may come. Yeah. If, like Ian says, you know, the crop circle that he's just touched on really does mark out a future tsunami, it would be a terrible event. It really would, and that's not our wishes, but our hope is that at some point we can be aware of these things so that we can prepare ourselves. If those people in the Gulf of Mexico are wiped out, heaven forbid, but if it was that future research of crop circles are taken much more seriously, then that's an important factor to take place.
Exactly. I mean, Ian often says we have to be equanimous. That's a long word for this time. for the word. We have to sort of be willing to accept what happens without attaching any kind of existential weight to it, and often good things, you know, often I found this in my life, you know, that lousy things often do me a lot of good in the long run. Of course, I do hope Ian's wrong here. I think everyone does. I mean, or maybe he's averted this catastrophe from its prediction, as he did in Chicago, when he talks about the Sears Tower, you know, and you know. So we can hope that will happen. We've got on 7 minutes now, I think. Is that all right?
7 minutes might be too long for YouTube, but listen, if there's something, then it's just to just be mindful of what's going on. Don't watch. I've been without television for probably about 5 years, but I would anyway just enjoy life and embrace what encompasses it. You know, embrace what comes to you. And if we can all be a little bit like the shopkeeper that just makes one little bit of difference, one change in our lives, then what a great place this earth would be.
Exactly. And remember, there's no such thing as an ordinary person. There's no such thing as a powerless person. You know, the communist government in Poland is often said, Lech Walesa, he was a docker, he was an ordinary guy who worked on the docks. He brought down the communist government in Poland. I mean, he changed a bit after that, but I mean, the point, you know, people say good and bad things about him, but the point is, he was an ordinary guy, and there's no such thing as an ordinary guy. That's what they want you to think. They want us to live little lives, little programmed lives. That's what they want.
And I think taking away the conspiracy theory, but even just to research and join as many dots as you possibly can. This is where we're at. Yeah. You know, not all of what Ian says I take on board immediately. Some of it takes weeks of my own research to actually sort of go, Ian, you're right.
Yeah. I don't think Ian would want us just to believe him. Well, Simon, thanks very much for that, and keep up the good work.
And
you know, thanks, mate. Yeah, I know.
Benjamin. Take care.
If you want to insult me, call me an EastEnders fan or a good consumer.
Okay. You take care of yourself.
And you, mate. Yeah, bye-bye, thanks. That was Simon. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity, stop the New World Order. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity, stop the New World Order. Welcome to Panwo TV. I'm here in Glastonbury again, and I'm going to do another interview with an attendee at the Glastonbury Symposium. This here is Dally. How do you do, Dally?
I'm well, thank you.
Now tell me, what brings you to Glastonbury this weekend?
The symposium.
All right, and why do you feel drawn to attend the symposium?
I've attended a few alternative view conferences, and from there I heard about the symposium. I was always interested in crop circles, and this seems to cover a lot of that. So I thought it'd be a good plan to come down and have a look.
Oh, great, yeah. So, what are your feelings about crop circles? What do you think they are? I mean, there's many million theories, I know. What's yours?
Sure. I've gained a little more knowledge. First, I knew absolutely nothing. I've heard of orbs that fly over crop circles and then they mysteriously appear. So perhaps it's some kind of some other entity or of some kind, or something of extraterrestrial nature.
Do you feel like trying to communicate with us, or
Yes, after the last few days, yes, that seems to be the theme that they're trying to communicate with us.
Yeah, there's some. I often feel like these. It does feel like it's some kind of interaction. They see. I was saying on an earlier video. They kind of. I feel like they're welcoming people to come in. They actually design these things to be visited. You know, I definitely got the feeling there. You know, I mean, so that's great. I mean, do you visit the other sacred sites, the older sacred sites and places like that? Do you think there's significance in those?
I think there is. Yes, seems to think there's lots of energy that comes from these sacred sites. A lot of the speakers talk about sacred geometry, and I think there's a reason why lots of these sites are built on these places. I myself haven't visited many, very few actually, but that's something I'm hoping to do now.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I feel that the sacred sites are actually. I mean, they're portrayed in tourist books as they're just funny lumps of rock, and they're amusing. Some of them are technically brilliant, like Stonehenge is a technical work of genius for the people who made it. You know, with the technology they had. But we don't really see them as. We say they're spiritual religious. We don't really understand anything about the spirituality or religion of those people. It's as if something's been lost from us. Do you know what that might be? What's been lost? How it happened?
I really don't know. I think most of society these days are conditioned in consumerism, and that seems to be the new religion. You know, everyone seems to want stuff, and everyone's following a very similar cycle. And everyone just seems to be doing the same thing and trying to attain as much materialistic goods as possible.
It's true, isn't it? I mean, like Andy Thomas was saying, that there are no sacred spaces in our world like the ancients had. I mean, even the cathedrals of the medieval era, which were obviously Christian. I mean, there's no way anyone would have built anything like that now. You know, it's the only cathedral-like buildings that are built nowadays are shopping centres. You know, it makes you think, doesn't it? It's a kind of as if it is consumerism is a religion, isn't it? I mean, it is. It's for those who've rejected official religion. It's like we have this purely materialistic society, isn't it? Yeah. Do you think that's by mistake or by design?
I think it's by design, to keep people distracted, and it's a way of I think manipulating society and keeping them going in the direction that you want them to go.
Yeah, I've often thought. I mean, how there's kind of spiritual knowledge that we've talked about, and the conference members and guests and speakers have talked about, and there's often talked about here at Glastonbury quite openly, unlike most places. And if that became general knowledge everywhere, we would become ungovernable. Do you know what I mean? I mean, the Illuminati would completely slip through their fingers. You know, I mean, it's obviously the Illuminati do. Unlike you, I agree. I think it's by design. The Illuminati want us to be materialistic. They want us to be consumers, and that's obviously part of their plan to hold on to us. The only alternative to that is the official religions, which are all tailor-made by them.
I seem to believe that as well. I think all religions are tailor-made by them.
Yeah.
And again, another means of control. I think ultimately it comes down to controlling us. Be it financially, economically, through. Socially, however it is, to keep us in a certain direction and not attain the knowledge that they have.
Yeah, I've often thought there's a new book by Philip Pullman, who's a great writer who writes about writes about theological subjects, called Jesus the Man and Christ the Scoundrel. And it seems to be. I mean, the truth of the matter is we don't know what Jesus said or what he did because he's been institutionalised. And I'd love to go back in time and see Jesus and say, well, what did you really say all that? And he said, he'll probably look at the Gospels and say, what? I never said that. Yeah. Well, Dally, I think we'll have to leave it there because I've got 15 minutes left in this film left in this chip, and I want to make a few more shots. But otherwise, we go on a bit longer, you know. But thank you very much for this interview.
You're welcome.
Okay, thanks. That was Dally there. Hospital Porter's Pride and Dignity, stop the New World Order. Hospital Porter's Pride and Dignity, stop the New World Order. Welcome to Herpanwo TV again. It's Sunday morning, and I'm showing you the venue. This is the town hall. There's Glastonbury Symposium logo. Welcome to the Glastonbury Symposium, investigating signs of our times. Very true. I've shown you the inside of the auditorium, I'll show you the outside. See, that looks like a crop circle itself, doesn't it? That little... And they've done a wonderful job with the flowers here. You know, so it looks really nice. And this here, see this little phone box? That is the temporary Herpanwo TV studio. I'm just going to pop in there now, actually. Don't see many of these lovely old phone boxes. Right. Oh, just dropped the receiver. Oh, right. Now, yeah, yesterday we got very tired and we went shopping because we didn't want to see the other speakers. It's getting a bit much at some point. But we went back to see Lucy Pringle, who is a very, very famous crop circle researcher. She's an elderly lady who does who's very, very keen on photographs. I was telling you about her yesterday. She did a little lecture explaining some of the experiments she's done in crop circles. She's done scientific research, you know, putting bottles of water into the crop circles and seeing if their chemical mineral contact changes. And you know, she uses control groups as well to make it a proper experiment. And then what she's most famous for is her photography. She doesn't fly herself, but she has she charters an aircraft and she goes up with her camera and she takes photos of the circles. And most of the photos you see in Crop Circle Connector and these other websites and magazines, they're hers. And without her, you know, we never have these wonderful images of, you know, most of these wonderful images of crop circles, especially the aerial ones, would not be there. So thanks, Lucy. And she showed this wonderful gallery of all the crop circles accompanied by music, and it's very moving. And it made me realise that, you know, I don't know what or who makes these circles, who's behind these phenomena, or where they are, or what kind of creatures they are, or if they're even creatures at all, or something else. But you know, my main reason for solving this mystery is now just to go up to them and shake them by the hand, or whatever appendage they use for greetings, and say, thanks guys for doing this for us. Thanks for bringing this wonder into our life, and for bringing you know, for giving this wonderful gift to people. You know, it's meant so much to so many people.
Oh my god, what a terrible still. I shouldn't have stopped it there, should I? Never mind, I'll be moving on shortly, but I wanted to point out that I maintain what I said back then today. I still do see crop circles primarily something spiritual. They are there to give us an experience, and I think they are some form of communication on a spiritual, distinctly spiritual level with the earth and her people. And it may be something that we can only actually understand on an etheric higher plane than we do in our conscious thoughts. So that hasn't changed in me. However, I've also come to realise, though, that this crop circle is still worthy of scientific study, and I still see it as an object of scientific investigation. I did back then, actually, but I think I emphasise the scientific side more today. And I don't think there's a contradiction between those two points of view. I think you can have both and embrace both aspects of the crop circle phenomenon. Again, this is a case of not being one thing and then changing into another within the last 8 years. But I think my balance has shifted. And I don't think that's a bad thing.
Right, and we also, last night, we saw the film 2012, We're Already In It. It's a wonderful, lovely movie by a lady called Patty Greer, a very bubbly American lady, who went on a spiritual quest in the heart of England through crop circles and ancient monuments, and she's done pretty much what we're all doing in one way or another, but she went very intense. She was very, very intense and absorbed into it. She went and lived in a little cottage in Wiltshire that didn't even have any electricity for a while, and it was really, really quite amazing.
Now, of course, we come to what we were bound to come to in this particular venture, and that is the 2012 phenomenon. This was 2010, 2 years before the big day, the big changeover, the big you know what and you know everything. Do you remember that? How many of you was on the scene in those days? The Mayan calendar and all that sort of thing. I don't know what to do except refer you to the videos, several videos I've made about this, including my 2012 diary. I actually did a 2012 video diary, if you remember. I might, and I won't include that. I might actually re-edit that one as well, because I'm thinking of actually doing director's cuts of all my early multi-part videos. But anyway, basically, of course, the Earth didn't dissolve into a volcano, Roland Emmerich style, nor did we all become priests of high Atlantis, nor did jaguars fall from the sky, which is what the Mayans predicted, according to some translations. Oh God, what a huge subject that is. I've done a Hapanwo radio show called 2012 1 Year On. I think I might have even done a couple of videos about it, like about a year later, in December 2013. But I can't add much more to that, except to say, of course, you know, back then I wasn't of the opinion that the catastrophe stroke ecstasy kind of thing would happen. Funnily enough, Jeff Stray was at that conference. I mean, I've talked about Jeff Stray before. He was at that conference, and I actually met up with him again in Bath. Actually, I think it was a few years earlier I met up with him. But yeah, it was actually in 2010. It was in 2010, but it was in Bath I met up with him. Yeah. But he wrote a book called 2012 Catastrophe or Ecstasy, which is really interesting to read. But I cannot go into this any further because it requires a 2-hour video of its own. It really, really does.
Oh, Heidi, SE111 has turned up and she's staying with us in our hotel, and she just turned up on the bus and she had nowhere to stay, and it was like, she tends to do that, she tends to sort of like come along very quickly, and you may have seen some of her videos, and I'm hoping to get an interview with her later because she's got some interesting stories to tell. You may have seen her on the Symbolism in Starbucks video, and I'm hoping to get an interview to talk about other things. Right, I think it's time for me to now go into the venue. It's time for me to go in and to experience John Dalton. And I knocked the receiver off the hook again. The old phone boxes. We forget what these things are like because we've got so many mobile phones and things like that now. Right, this is where you go in. That's the town hall. That's the merchandise hall in there. See. And there's a lovely atmosphere, and like I said, these wall hangings and ceiling hangings are wonderful. There's the toilets, and up here's this is the cafe where we have our refreshments, and here's the auditorium. I'll see you later. Hospital Porter's Pride and Dignity, stop the New World Order. Welcome to Hapanwo TV yet again. I'm back in the phone box. I haven't done a review of the speakers yet today, and I should have done. Although I've only seen 2 of them so far because it's just, I found the schedule a bit too much. I've had to sort of duck out and miss some of the speakers. I saw Andy Thomas this morning. Andy, you'll know from my reviews of AV4 and the other AV conferences. He did a really good film, a really good conference, lecture called Who Are the Torchbearers? And if you're thinking about the Illuminati being the torchbearers, now he doesn't mean that. He means the people who are active and dynamic and want to change the world. So he means us, really, I hope. And he was very funny, his speech. He was talking about the debt, the massive amount of debt that's in this country. Apparently the national debt is about 6 times what the government are telling us it is, which is why they're making these cuts right now. It's all going to the banks, of course, because those bloody bankers run everything, don't they? Right bunch of bankers. And then he said, oh look, he was quite funny actually, because he said, look, money's worth nothing now. He took a £10 note out of his pocket and tossed it to someone in the audience, and he says, go on, have a tenner. Very good he was. Yeah, Andy Thomas, apparently he's been going to the symposium here virtually since it started 20 years ago. Andy Thomas is someone I've got to be grateful to actually, because I'm ashamed to admit this, but I fell for the Doug and Dave hoax. Yes, I did. I remember all the furore in the media about crop circles in the late 80s and early 90s. And then old Doug and Dave come along and said, it's all right, we were doing it all. And his headline saying, fooled you. And of course that's totally false. And it was actually deliberate. That was engineered, actually, you know, by the media to quell and quench the interest in crop circles. And I'm sad to say I fell for it. I believed it. I knew, and nothing more was mentioned in the media for years about crop circles, and I didn't think there was an issue with them anymore until I saw the Esther show in about 1999 or 2000, and Andy Thomas was on it talking about crop circles. So I mean, Andy basically was the one who made me go, what, is it still going on? So, you know, thanks Andy, good man. After that we went around the shops for a little bit, and we went to a place called Hierotica, and basically we walked in and we were given a free glass of wine, and there was this woman behind the stall selling her paintings, and we looked at the paintings and there was these amazing kind of pictures of sort of hunky kind of blokes, but I mean they were very, very sort of like erotically drawn. And I'll give you an example, because I bought this bag, alright? Just have a look at that. See what I mean? See all the picture there? Makes my eyes water. Bloody hell. I never thought I'd feel inadequate coming to Glastonbury. Well, that's a present from my ex-girlfriend anyway. So that was interesting. Then we went back to the auditorium and we saw Christopher Booker, who is one of the founders and editors of Private Eye, this really funny satirical magazine. He was talking about the global warming scam, you know, the stupid carbon emission bollocks, about how, you know, it doesn't matter how, you know, and all the terrible damage that's been done to the environment, which is supported by the green movement, you know, to cut carbon emissions, like, you know, cutting down trees to grow biofuels. You know, and people say, well, you have to cut them down because we have to reduce our carbon emissions. I was with him to the point where he started saying nuclear power was a good idea. And he's saying, well, okay, you can't use fossil fuels, but what else are you going to use? Wind power won't work, wave power, solar power is not good enough. What are you going to do? You have to use nuclear power. No, you don't, Christopher. You can use zero-point energy that has been discovered by scientists for over 150 years. Nikola Tesla, Victor Schauberger, Wilhelm Reich. All these people have discovered free energy, and it's been suppressed by the government. The government have fuelless cars and fuelless aircraft. They have anti-gravity. They're behind some of the UFO sightings you see of craft that behave with anti-gravity. So you do not need nuclear power. But I don't think he really was willing to go that far. You know, he's not that alternative, even though he must be fairly alternative to be speaking here. So that's what I thought of Christopher Booker. Right, the next one is Lucy Pringle is next. Now she's interesting. She's an elderly lady who researches crop circles, and she's a top crop circle photographer. Whenever one appears, she's up there in her plane. She charters an aircraft. She doesn't fly herself, and she takes photos of them. And most of the stuff you see on Crop Circle Connector, most of those images are hers. So I'll let you know how I get on there. See you later. Well, Panmo TV viewers, hello again. I've just seen John Dalton, as I said. I was thinking in two minds whether either get up early enough and go and see him or have a lie-in, but I'm very, very glad I went to see him because he's a very, very interesting guy. He's a local resident here at Glastonbury. He came onto the stage with a harp. He had a big Irish harp, and he played some lovely tunes for us, to show us his performance. But the main part of his performance was he described his speech. He was talking about music, about its meaning and its origins, and it taught me a lot, you know. He was explaining about how different music is linked to psychology and your feelings and your state of mind. He said that all love songs have third chords in them, you know, like the ones that go, oh baby, baby, they've all got third chords in them. Whereas religious songs tend to have fourth and fifth chords, you know, like the Handel's Messiah and things like that. And he said that the blues songs have major and minor chords put together. He said the major chord sounds very uplifting and the minor chord sounds more retiring. And he says like the masculine and feminine kind of aspects of the mind. And it was really very, very interesting. I mean, he played his old tune from 2,000 years ago, which is the oldest written tune ever recorded in sort of like in a tomb, in a Greek tomb, in what's now Turkey, and it's really really amazed me when he starts talking about the most interesting aspect of this all, which is how it's used by authorities to control us. And there is mind control. Music is used for mind control. He explained how torturers use it, in even in the modern day in Afghanistan and Iraq. They use it to interrogate suspected Al-Qaeda suspects, prisoners. And John Ronson actually exposed this in his book, The Crazy Rulers of the World, The Men Who Stare at Goats. They beamed music into Manuel Noriega's compound in Panama. They've beamed it into the Waco sanctuary in Texas, where the siege took place, which ended up in the massacre. They used and apparently Muzak. These awful tunes you get in shops. They're more sophisticated than you think. They're not just. Some of them are designed to dumb people down, which is obvious. They tend to be quite. Generally, people say they're shallow and poor quality. There was a military man, a general, who actually who started the Muzak company. But apparently, if you go to a shop, they pay attention to the music they play, because they play fast beats in fast food restaurants, and they've actually filmed people. They see people chew quicker and eat quicker when they're listening to faster music. And then also, if they play. Apparently in shops, if they play, classical music like Mozart and Beethoven, while people are shopping for clothes and things, people are more likely to pay a higher price. They're more willing to pay a higher price for the product. Whereas if they play bubblegum pop, people look at it and say, this is a bit expensive, isn't it? See, so it all goes in here. And this is why we must never, ever underestimate the power of these bastards for controlling our minds. And once you know it's happening to you, it doesn't work. That's the key thing about all mind control, music mind control and all other forms of mind control. Every form of mind control, okay? So like I say, you're forewarned, my Herpanwo TV viewers. Forewarned is forearmed. And hopefully you can go out and do your own research into this. Right, I'm gonna head off now and try and interview Heidi. I'll see you later.
Hospital Porter's Pride and Dignity Stop the New World Order. Welcome to Herpanwo TV. This here says to the tour, because this here is the public footpath to the tour. If you recall, I ascended the tour. I ascended the tour was it Wednesday night I ascended the tour, and I filmed myself just before I got to the summit in the evening. And that was a lovely ascent, and that is the way to the tour. Right now I'm at the base of the tour, and this is where I am. This is the Chalice Well. Behind this wall is the Chalice Well Centre, and this water running underneath this grating is all Chalice Well water. And that's the silver spring in there, the white spring, the silver spring. And look at it, it's a shrine. There's a totem pole, you see, and there's some totem poles and incense. And it's a shrine. And you can actually go in there and you can bathe. I bathed in there a couple of years ago, I did. See the ribbons people put out to it. And this is the water. I tell you what, this is the best water you'll ever have in your life. This is the white spring water here. Just going to take a little sip of it there. It's come and fit. When I was at the Now That's Weird conference, I used to fill my bottle from here every morning. It's lovely stuff. We're over here. This is the Chalice Well water. You can see here. I don't know if you can't see the colour really, but it's slightly. Look at the residue underneath. It's slightly rusty. It tastes a bit rusty. Tastes a bit rusty, so you can there's a bit of rust down there, because the minerals in it are different. I'll tell you what, I brought someone here once. They wouldn't drink from this. I said, what's wrong with it? You drink tap water, don't you? Think of the poisons in that. This is pure water. This is healthy water. It's natural water. It hasn't been murdered by the chemicals and the radiation and the treatment and the artificial environment it's kept in. I mean, you see Victor Schauberger, what he says about that. Look at Victor Schauberger online. And they happily swill Coke and Diet Pepsi and things like that, which are full of noxious chemicals. And this is natural water, and it's You see, like all water is, it's regarded as sacred. As water is thanks. Water is the source of life on this planet. It's the only planet in the solar system with liquid water, and it is something that is sacred. It's a sacred substance for that reason. You know, imagine if you were Arab or in a desert, what this would mean to you. Or even an Eskimo who lives in a world of ice. The trouble they have to go to melt their water. So come to the Chalice Well if you're ever in Glastonbury. Hospital Porter's Pride and Dignity, stop the New World Order. Hospital Porter's Pride and Dignity, stop the New World Order. Welcome to Herpanwo TV. I'm just going to show you our venue. There's Glastonbury Abbey there. How about that? We'll be going in there later and having a look around. We'll have a proper look at all the ruins. And here it is, the Town Hall. Glastonbury Symposium. And that's all in there, all the action goes on in there. And this is the Town Hall, see? They've really decorated it really nicely. Now that there is my little impromptu studio. So that's the Herpanwo TV studio. I'll go in here and have a look at the stalls. There's the Nexus stall. These ones, they're actually crop circle t-shirts there. I might get one of them because I want to get one. I always say I get one book, one DVD, one t-shirt. So I might get one of these. Do you have these in double extra large? Well, even that might not be enough for me.
They always got pretty big.
Oh, these are nice. Oh. Yeah, it'll have to be a pretty big one.
They are, the XLs are big.
Cheers. That might fit me. That's a nice one. I like that one, yeah.
That won't get in that, that's small.
Oh, yeah. Well, maybe it wouldn't.
For you an XL though.
Thanks.
They are big.
That's nice, isn't it? Oh, thank you, yeah. That's a lovely one, that is. Thanks.
This year's as well.
I've got some tough decisions to make out what to buy with the money I've got, but I might come back and get that. I'll have to see, but Nexus. I might come back later and get one. It's the greatest and loveliest magazine in the world. If you're in any way interested in any of the subjects I'm discussing here, then you've got to get this magazine. And there's some good books here as well. I've read some of these and some of them I haven't. All kinds of subjects. That's the crop circle we visited yesterday. There's crop circle things here. You get a crop circle calendar. Or books as well, and DVDs of crop circles. These crystals here, crystal jewellery and shapes, sculpted crystals. Crystal skulls. They're a bit cheaper than the ones in the high street too. Look at that alien one. I think my favourite is this alien one. Yeah, that's brilliant, I love them. Lots of health supplements, things like that you get here, and anti-wrinkle cream. Hello, hi. Hey. Oh, sea charts.
Handwritten books.
I'd be interested in that. Illustrated maps.
Written
I like
by
maps.
me.
Oh, you've written. Oh, then. Thank you. I've got some tough decisions to make over what to buy with my money, but
Okay.
I might pop down here.
When you're ready.
Thanks. Now here we get books and DVDs. If you look at the AV conference, there's Daniel Esterlin's book, Scott Tipps's book, Thomas Cullen. You know them from the AV conferences. And all Ian Crane's DVDs are here. Hi, all right. I've not been here before. No, I've not been at the AV conferences. Oh no, I've not been at the Glastonbury Symposium before. It's my first one.
83, that's where
I did, yeah. You were in Bristol. Yeah, that was good. That was a good one. That was, yeah.
I liked the pool.
The which one?
I liked the swimming pool there.
I never tried it. No.
It's really nice. And they had like jacuzzi there as well.
I made a mistake of not actually staying at the venue, so that's bad luck. That, yeah. And these here is all crop circle things here. Crop circle photos. That's by Lucy Pringle, who's one of the top crop circle photographers in the world.
Hello.
On no test.
Some more Crop Circle DVDs here and books. Hi there.
The Crop Circle DVD.
Oh, yeah, are they the? Oh, that's a... There's no valour in false modesty, is there?
There's no ego, actually. I'm just kidding. I'm just so funny.
No, I mean, that's... if you like them and you're proud of them, that's great. I've got 3
I
minutes.
just want you to stall so my mate can meet you, because I've talked about you.
I've got
and
that.
our
I've read that.
experience.
Ah, right, okay.
Jeff Stray.
The seeing you and the other guy with the blue sabers on the hill that night, and then a year later meeting you.
There's really all sorts of subjects you can read about Russian language. I'm running out of tape. I'm going to have to change the tape in a minute. I'm running these chips almost full up. And there's Andy Thomas's things here.
But if you know...
Remember Andy Thomas? And we're back again at the t-shirt store. Right, I'm going to have to change the chip now. Thanks for watching. See you later. Hello again. Well, our little symposium is nearly at an end. My very first Glastonbury Symposium, 2010, is coming to a close, and the main conference has already finished. We saw Patricia Corey was the last speaker, who's a kind of she's a kind of alternative Roseanne Barr, really. She's a really funny speaker and really going on about the Illuminati and whales and dolphins and 2012 and things like that. I'm sort of running out of ways to express myself, I think. I've overdone it. I'm now at the Abbey, which is I've not been in before, even though I've been to Glastonbury several times. And you can see here these ruins of this ancient abbey. It's very old. See here it says northeast of the crossing, junction of the nave. I think this is going back to the 14th century or whatever. This was like all enclosed, and this was a church, and there was a roof over our heads. It's gone now. Among its other claims to fame, I don't know if this is it. It's somewhere along here. Here we are. Look, the site of King Arthur's tomb. Right, well, King Arthur is now buried in several different locations. Edinburgh, Wales, Cornwall. Look at that. Several other different spots. Now, he can't be buried in all those places unless they chopped him up and buried his arms in one place, his leg in the other, his head somewhere else. This was where the altar was. So, obviously, King Arthur, I don't know if it's King Arthur's real tomb. I just think maybe he always said he'd come back to England when it was needed, and I think he bloody well does. I think he bloody well is needed, so I hope he comes back soon, if he is coming back. It's not just England though, it's the world. Look at that, and so old. If you listen quietly, you can still hear the monks chanting their matins and their evensong. There's a little old chapel over here. Yeah. Trying to imagine what it looked like with a roof over our heads. I was just done a lovely meditation session in the Abbey grounds. It was over this big spot which someone said is an old well, which is the oldest part of the Abbey. It was lovely actually. We stood in a circle. There's about 300 people there. Loads of people who were at the conference were standing in this circle, holding hands. And then Jason, one of the speakers, earlier on, he led the speech, and I'm going to go around the other side, see if I can get in. And at the end, it was very, very powerful kind of thing. Sorry, you're going to get a bit of sunlight now. Can't be helped. Very, very powerful feelings. He told us to open our crown chakras, and all this stuff came in, all this energy came in, and we imagined it as a glowing ball of light, giving love to the world. Here we are, this little chapel here. Wow. Chapel of the St Thomas the Martyr. Yeah. So, and that really was that's one of the most powerful things I've experienced at this symposium, and really is. Along with everything else, I think that has to be one of the best things we've done here with this meditation. This marks the end of the main part of the conference.
it's not the end of the whole conference, not the very end. There's a little postscript which is coming up later, and that is Andrew Collins is going to be speaking, a famous archaeologist who's discovered something very interesting about the pyramids of Egypt. And I will be going to that later this evening before bed, and then tomorrow morning going back to the so-called real world. It's got to come eventually. Well, this is Glastonbury Abbey, everybody. Hope you've enjoyed this little brief tour of it. See you later. Hospital Porter's Pride and Dignity, Stop the New World Order. Welcome to Panwo TV. Well, I'm home. This is the last part of this little movie I've done about the Glastonbury Symposium. I got off the train. Estain has gone off to Nottingham. I'm now sitting in a little park here, near where I live, just trying to decompress a little bit from the energies I received from Glastonbury. Trying to adjust to this this Ahrimanic world, as Rudolf Steiner would call it, that I've come back into after the heady energy of Glastonbury. It takes some getting used to, I must say. It's been quite a few days I've had. In the last 5 days, been quite. I've had some pretty big experiences. I've stood in 2 crop circles. I've drunk from the chalice well. I've been up the tour, the Glastonbury tour, that is. I've interviewed several people. I've seen some brilliant speakers, and there's been highs and more highs, and there's been some lows too, because one of the other things I witnessed was I was one of the last ever customers of the heritage stores. Do you remember me showing you the heritage stores in Glastonbury in one of my earlier segments of this movie? Well, that may very well be the last ever film taken of those shop, of that particular independent organic food shop, because basically as soon as I walked out the door, almost they locked the doors and they tore down all the signs. They started wheeling all the shelves out, basically toshing the place, and they put stickers up saying they're turning it into a cooperative. Now that's a great shame. I mean, I know Co-op is an awful lot more ethical than many other supermarket chains, and if you have to shop in one of them, shop at the Co-op, but it's not the same as a small independent shop that Glastonbury has a lot of. There are plenty of others left, but still very, very sad. I'm pretty short of words really about how to describe what I've experienced these last 5 days, except that I'm very, very glad I went. It's given me an awful lot of hope for the future of this world and humanity and all the other creatures who live here in this universe with us. As Patricia Corrie says, the Illuminati won in Atlantis, but they're not going to win this time. And I've also said before, and I'll say again, and I think this is a sort of epitaph or kind of epilogue for the entire series, of days and events that have happened to me. This is a kind of label I could put on it, would be that it's not going to Glastonbury, it's bringing Glastonbury here. As I said before, I'd like to go and live there. I feel at home there, but it's just an island, a little island of beauty in this, in a cesspit. It's one little oasis in this desert, this Illuminati-occupied desert. And what I want to do is I want to green the whole desert, make the whole desert into an oasis. That's the best way I can put it, really. And I think in the absence of any more words, I think, there's not much else to say, except maybe quote somebody else who's put it even better than me. And that person in this case is William Blake. And that's one of William Blake's most famous words, and most famous passages, has so often been misunderstood. It's supposed to be about nationalism and religion. It's not. It's something very, very different. And I'll end with that, if that's okay with you. As we pan around this mixture of green, brick, slate, with the noise of traffic whirring in our ears. And did those feet in ancient times walk upon England's mountains green, and was the holy Lamb of God on England's pleasant pastures seen. And did the countenance divine shine forth upon our clouded hills, and was Jerusalem builded here among those dark satanic mills. Bring me my bow of burning gold, bring me my arrows of desire. Bring me my spear, O clouds unfold, bring me my chariots of fire. I shall not cease from mental fight, nor shall my sword sleep in my hand, till we have built Jerusalem in England's green unpleasant land. Thank you for watching this Panmo TV feature-length documentary, and thank you for sharing this experience with me. Hospital Porter's pride and dignity stop the New World Order. Goodbye.
And now we come to the outtakes. I've decided to include these outtakes in this particular new edition, the director's cut of Ben Goes on Tour, and I still have these actually on my hard drive. That's quite amazing after all these years. Now the first one I need some explanation. It's a this is a guy who used to have a stall outside Oxford Station. He's a New Zealander, and he does cook breakfasts for people. So I'll just show you this outtake. The second outtake is just a little bit of a rambling I did when I was going through the tunnel underneath Reading Station, which doesn't need any additional commentary.
If ever you're at Oxford Station, look along the forecourt and you will see Beeb's Bacon Baps. Hot, fresh, tasty, nutritious filling food. It's a brilliant organic food stall that serves the railway travellers here in Oxford. Straight out of the farm, straight onto the grill. Bacon, cheese, onions, omelettes, all organic and fresh and healthy. That's where I've had my breakfast this morning. Hospital Porter's pride and dignity, stop the New World Order. Hospital Porter's pride and dignity, stop the New World Order. Remember the subway? Have you seen the subway story? I'll put a link up in the description box. But basically, I've been campaigning to save the artwork in a subway in Oxford that was going to be destroyed because they're redeveloping the area to make it more accessible and more attractive to people from London. Well, you know, what they've done is they've turned it into a standard globalist template. You know, the park benches you see anywhere in the world now and all these other things. And they've destroyed a unique piece of local culture to create this template. Well, I'm very pleased to tell you, here in Reading Station, they have murals here too. And here they are. See, look, Reading. There's a railway, because railways are a big part of this place's history. Stonehenge, see them by train. These are lovely, and they're unique. There's nowhere else in the world will have these pictures. Just let you see them all. Great Western Railway. Brighton. Prince Albert Bridge, that's London. Pirates of Penzance. It must be the Gilbert and Sullivan musical. Alaska. Oh well, that was really nice, wasn't it?
So that was Ben Goes on Tour, the director's cut, 2018 version. Since that particular conference, the Glastonbury Symposium, and as much as I loved it, and you can see what a fantastic time I was having, I've never been back. That was that was the only time I've ever been to the Glastonbury Symposium. I know a lot of other people who go, and these people who often say to me, you know, Ben, when are you going to go to the Glastonbury Symposium next? You'll love it. And I says, well, I went once, and I haven't been back. And the reason I haven't been back is I'm afraid it's got a lot to do with time and money. It's not because I dislike that event in any way. In fact, I enjoyed the event very much. So that's the reason. But a lot has happened since then. I've changed a lot. And rewatching that video, I can see how much I've changed. I'm actually going to do I might do updated editions of some of my other early videos soon. Because it's kind of like, it's a bit of a, it's good to explore your past. And there's so much I've forgotten, I even videoed. I've been doing this for so long, I've made so many videos. But I have changed. I've changed enormously. I mean, in terms of my my general external life, well, I'm not a hospital porter anymore. In fact, I had, when that came on, I had just over 2 years left in the hospital portering service. I didn't know when I went to Glastonbury Symposium, I had just over 2 years and I'd be out. Also, I've split up from Sue Stain, someone I was with for 8 years and I was very much in love with. So that's changed as well. But I've changed in other ways now, and I can see it there. And I've been talking about it through the commentary. But I suppose I've become less mystical. I've not become non-mystical, but I've become more. I think I've become more nuts and bolts. I suppose a sort of more nuts and bolts person. I've got my feet on the ground more. Even though, you know, I do have I still keep my eyes on the sky, to quote RDH, and I still do. I haven't repudiated any of the spiritual realities of life. I've not explored them in the way that I used to. There may be many reasons for that. I don't know if it's for good or bad. You guys will have different opinions on that, but I've really, you could see watching me there how much more level-headed I am than I was back then, and a lot of the New Age stuff, a lot of the New Age things that I used to embrace, I think I've disposed of. I haven't meditated for a long time. I don't go walk around the countryside looking for nature spirits. It's not because I'm not saying these things aren't real. It's just that it's not a part of my journey at the moment. I don't feel anything. I feel no embarrassment about anything I said or did back then, except for that one scene that I told you about, which I've removed. It was in the original uploads and is not in this one. I've got rid of all the old ones actually. The original Ben Goes on Tour was not very good. It was all, like I said, it was all in a load of single segmented videos, and there was like 25 of these videos, and that's not ideal. Easy with the video responses, like I said. But yeah, it's been interesting to watch that. I hope you found it interesting too. Some of the things, you know, like the free energy stuff and things like I talked about that, I'm still interested in that now, and I'm still very much involved in that now, and that's still very, very true. And I was already into the UFO disclosure stuff by then. I'd been to the exopolitics. No, I went to when was my first exopolitics conference? It was actually that year that I first went to exopolitics, the exopolitics Leeds. It was the 2010 one. The 2010 was the first one when I went to exopolitics Leeds. Yeah, I remember that very well. Anyway, like I said, I will probably do some more of these. And well, there's plenty more new ones to come. Steve Mumbling, yes, I'm going to reply to you. Okay, I'm sorry I haven't yet. And all the others, thank you very much, all of you, for watching. And there are lots more videos to come. I've just got to find time to do them with all the other things I'm doing. So if there's a bit, if you don't hear from me for a week or so, and I don't upload for a week or a bit longer even, don't worry. Okay, I'm still around. Thank you for watching Hapanmo TV. Hospital Porters, pride and dignity. Stop the New World Order.